Item 3 is consider a resolution regarding Pat McPherson. I'd like to read the resolution. The Nebraska State Board of Education resolution regarding Pat McPherson. Whereas the State Board of Education deplores racism in all forms, expects respect and civility be shown to all people, including the President of the United States, and whereas there are several reports of racist, demeaning, and derogatory comments posted on a blog titled Objective Conservative since 2011, and whereas the State Board of Education understands that blog was founded and co-edited by State Board member Pat McPherson, and whereas State Board of Education members and Nebraska Department of Education staff have received numerous contacts from the news media and telephone calls, emails, and other contacts from the public sector expressing abhorrence for the comments in opposition to Mr. McPherson's presence on the State Board of Education, and whereas continued focus on this issue is a distraction from the work and mission of the State Board of Education and the Nebraska Department of Education, and whereas the State Board believes that this storm of attention and outrage, which appears likely to continue, will hinder the efforts of the State Board of Education and the Commissioner of Education to move forward to address pressing educational issues on behalf of Nebraska students, and whereas the State Board of Education has received many expressions of no confidence in the ability of Pat McPherson to effectively serve all of Nebraska's children, whereas Nebraska Governor Pete Ricketts, U.S. Senator Deb Fischer, U.S. Senator Ben Sass, elected officials, local and statewide organizations, news media throughout Nebraska, social media outlets, and individual citizens from Nebraska have publicly called for Mr. McPherson's resignation, and now therefore be resolved that the State Board of Education joins Nebraska Governor Ricketts, U.S. Senator Fischer, U.S. Senator Sass, among others, to call on State Board member Pat McPherson to resign his position on the State Board of Education. This resolution shall be effective the date of its adoption and shall remain in effect through December 31st, 2018. On behalf of the State Board of Education, this 28th day of January 2015.
Thank you, Dr. Wise. I'm John Witzel. I represent District 4, north and south of Omaha. I move to make the motion for the resignation of Mr. Patrick McPherson.
I will second.
There's a motion, a second on the floor. Any comments or discussion? Glenn?
I move that we strike the last whereas, because this is a logical fallacy of bandwagon. We don't want to approve this simply because everybody else does. That's the same argument your teenager says when they want to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning. All my friends do this. So that would be my amendment, to strike the final whereas.
There is does not appear to be a second on the amendment, so the resolution stands as is at this time. Any other comments or discussion?
I just have a clarification. Is the motion to adopt the resolution, or is the motion was worded in a strange way? I just wondered what exactly was meant. Are you moving to adopt the resolution, John?
John, were you moving to accept the resolution? Is that okay? For clarification. Any other?
Yes, Madam
Pat?
Chairman, Pat McPherson. I would like to read the following statement. I have apologized for the offensive statements that appeared on the blog, which I founded nearly 9 years ago. Over those years, more than 7,000 posts were made by many individuals, and I admittedly was negligent in policing many of those posts. Posts made by me and reflecting my opinions were signed by me. I've disavowed the offensive posts made by others and have closed down the blog. Much of the frenzy around this has been stirred by political interest to oppose me in the general election. Having not won the election, they've sought to overturn it by their efforts to inflame the issue using the racist appellation. They further intimidated political leaders to ask for my resignation by suggesting that if they didn't, they were in effect racist themselves. I am not a racist. Over my career, I've hired and worked with literally thousands of individuals and never been accused by any one of them of having any issues with race. Over my career, I've served on numerous boards and commissions dedicated to serving all members of our community and state. I have served on our organizations such as the Greater Omaha Community Action, Explorer Scout Awareness, and the Douglas County Foster Child Review Board, just to name a few of those dedicated to helping the most vulnerable. I ran for the board because I believe in providing quality education for all children. I said I would fight for local control of our schools, to provide teachers and school districts the tools to prepare our children for college and real-world jobs, for parental choice options in education, including homeschooling, private and parochial, etc., to assure parents a voice in board decisions, to provide transparency in all board decisions, to support our school boards, teachers, and parents with measurable standards, and to fight against the implementation of Common Core. I said I didn't believe in one-size-fits-all education, and that education wasn't and shouldn't be dictated by Washington, D.C., but rather by local control, rather that local control offers the best opportunity to improve education. I'll continue to fight for these beliefs and against the status quo, which has failed many students in Nebraska. There are critical issues facing education in Nebraska. While it's great to celebrate four-year graduation rates, should we be celebrating them when we are graduating young people who cannot even read their diplomas? Nebraska businesses are begging for individuals to fill jobs where employees can earn substantial salaries and have successful lifetime careers, but our schools aren't doing enough in providing those career pathways. In Omaha, we've had crimes that tear at our hearts. Many of those are a result of our schools and communities failing to provide appropriate education and the real hope for the future. These issues can't be addressed without a commitment for much improved educational opportunities for all our children, better engagement with parents, and strong support for our classroom teachers. While I understand the disruption this issue has created, I will not allow it to overturn an election. For those who say my presence, one vote among those 7 other well-intentioned people on this board will impede the board the job is doing, I say that notion is false. I'm excited for the opportunity to work in a collaborative manner with you, my board members, on behalf of the children of Nebraska. I look forward to reviewing the education initiatives of our governor, that our governor will initiate and that this board will have before them. And I expect the voters of District 8 to hold me accountable for those efforts. For those of you who are not inclined to accept my apology, I would ask that you at least show a spirit of forgiveness and offer me a chance to work with you for the good of all Nebraska children. And I ask that you then form your judgments about me based on actually working with me. Thank you.
Any other comments? Maureen?
Maureen Nichols, District 6. As a former classroom teacher for 26 years, I was held to high accountability for the ethics, what I wrote, what I said. I have sat in this audience as a guest, listening to Mr. Halstead explain when the board has been asked to consider taking away the license of a teacher because of things that they said or did or wrote. Most of those teachers, if not all, apologized for their mistakes. They admitted their mistakes, but their districts were not willing to tolerate it. Many of them, their license was before the Professional Practice Commission. I heard last month at my very first meeting, Mr. Halstead talk about the license of a teacher, of a student teacher, and how that individual, despite his mistakes, apology, admitting, he was held to the same accountability and ethics as a teacher who had a license. And because of that, I think we as a board, when we have to make those decisions for our educators, I believe we need to hold ourselves to the same accountability as being on this board.
Any other comments? Discussion? Lily?
Madam President, Lily Larson, District 1. When this sort of situation arises, then we look to each other as a board as to what is the best, procedure to follow. And I believe that as a board, we are moving forward with a recommendation that has been very thoughtfully, very carefully, very well advised to move forward with the resolution. I believe, this is my personal belief, the State Board of Education and their role and their responsibility is to encourage and to defend fair and unbiased treatment of all people through the educational materials that we recommend and the teachings that we promote. And the State Board of Education will not vary. The State Board of Education will not vary from our principles of inclusion and civility to all persons. Thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, Denise, please call the roll regarding the motion.
Molly O'Halloran,
Yes.
John Witzel,
Yes.
Lily Larson,
Yes.
Glenn Flint,
No.
Rachel Wise,
Yes.
Patrick McPherson,
No.
Maureen Nichols,
Yes.
Patricia Tim,
Yes.
6 yes, 2 no.
Thank you.